Good morning and welcome to Cover 2 Cook. We are on the NFL Sunday. We got a London game starting off right now. We got two games on Monday night, but we got an action-packed Saturday or Sunday of football. We're going to recap the the NCAA to start us off, talk about our bets, and then go on to talk about what is must-watch for college or for NFL and our bets for NFL Sunday. But before I get too far, let me bring on my co-host, Mr. Tim Cook. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Ready for some NFL action this morning and this afternoon and tonight and Monday, and getting a recap of what that a great Saturday night of Saturday football, college football.
It was. You didn't see many upsets, but you did see what we thought was going to be a great Saturday with great games going down to the end. An unexpected Georgia-Texas game. So let's get started off right off the bat. Let's talk about that number 7 Alabama versus number 11 Tennessee. Jalen Milrose throws 2 interceptions, and they just become the 2 biggest turnovers in that game. What do you think about that game?
Yeah, this game really kind of started out really slow. You know, Tennessee just could get anything going, and the kid quarterback from got hurt in the second quarter. Didn't know whether he was coming back or not, and he's kind of the straw that stirs the drink. So it was 7-0 at halftime. I'm like, oh boy, this could be a long game, and it's just the turnovers for Alabama. They just cannot in the second half. They just can't get out of their own way with turnovers, and then you had that bad unsportsmanlike penalty at the end of the game. This team is just not disciplined like a Nick Saban team. It's just totally different. And, now this is their second loss with this. So it's not looking good for them as far as the SEC championship, definitely. And they just don't look good yet.
I definitely agree. I will definitely say that the unsportsmanlike was just, I mean, we've seen it. It's just too much of bad actions. And then even like there was a play where I watched earlier where a recap of the wide receivers were not blocking at all. Like Nick Saban would have them run until Sunday. Like it would have been crazy what Nick Saban would have done for them. It is. It's now here's one thing I want to bring up about Alabama. When Nick Saban said he was done, the recruits went crazy, right? Some of them went, the one went to Ohio State. Some of them went elsewhere. A lot of people transferred out because of Nick Saban leaving. So this isn't really on that coach yet until he starts bringing in his class. But at the same time, the discipline is not something that is based on like recruits leaving. That's on your coach then now. So I definitely agree, but I said on the Saturday podcast that Tennessee has to get the run started. Well, they did. They got the running attack started with Sampson with 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. But both teams had way too many penalties. Way too many penalties for teams to be talking about them in the playoffs right now. I think if anything right now, that just made Notre Dame look better and get them closer for a better chance to get into this. If all these SEC teams and Big Ten teams would just want to beat up on each other, it'll help Notre Dame with that awful Northern Illinois loss to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this was just not. I don't know. It started out really slow, and then it kind of picked up, and then Tennessee got the lead, and they just they just poured it on against. And even Milroe looked like he'd have one good series where he'd take him down the field, and then the next series he'd throw an interception, or he just not looking like the Milroe from last year. Definitely.
No, I definitely agree, and I think that they're too dependent on that Williams, I believe his name is.
Yeah, that's all they're throwing the ball to is Williams. I mean, they're not throwing to anybody else.
Well, and it was funny because that on the College Game Day they talked about how this Alabama team just doesn't seem like they have the weapons that they used to have. Well, I do believe that is a little bit of Nick Saban leaving. This is a new coach in there. It's a new system. It's a new. You're going to have to wait for him to get his recruits in because it happened at a bad time where recruits and transfers left. They just didn't come in. So, but I do think this puts them on the outside looking in. This is a situation where if Notre Dame runs a tape and gets in or has that one loss, and say Alabama runs a tape, right? And they have 2 losses, you cannot say that Alabama is better at this point. Like you just can't. These 2 losses, Vanderbilt and Tennessee, they're one was at home, one was away, but they let Tennessee's crowd just stay in it too much. Put on their throat.
And LSU or Alabama's got to go to I think to LSU in a couple of weeks. If they're playing like this, the LSU will stomp on them.
Yeah. Well, you got they have Mizzou, which I don't think Mizzou's any worth of crap anymore, but they got Mizzou, and then they are at LSU. Yes, 2 weeks, and then the rest of the schedule is pretty
Yeah.
should be pretty easy. But you lost to Vanderbilt, so how can you say that the rest of the schedule?
They might lose to Mizzou next week.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
They got Oklahoma still, and I think that might be one. I know Oklahoma's not looking great right now, but that defense still is pretty solid. And if they can make turnovers with Jalen Milroe, but we
Right.
did say that. I said that on Saturday that Jalen Milroe cannot throw interceptions. One in the red zone, which was a huge turning point, and then the other
Yeah.
one to finish the game up. I mean, just
Yeah.
come on, so. But great game overall, though. I will say it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Yeah. It started out slow, but at the end, it was a lot better than what, you know, and the final score was a lot better. So,
Yes, definitely agree. That moves us to our second game that was a must watch. Number 24, Michigan versus number 22, Illinois. And the first thing I got to say about this game was those helmets for Illinois were sweet.
yeah.
And they said a broadcast that it took over 2 hours per helmet to make it look like that. It was awesome. But what did you think about this game?
Yeah, I agree with you. Them helmets look the uniform, everything from top to bottom looked really good. Illinois just seems like Michigan just kept shooting themselves in the foot. They would just go down the field, and next thing you know, Illinois was intercepting the ball, and then they just was. I think Illinois played just enough to win, and Michigan played just enough to lose. If that makes any sense, it just didn't seem like they were. They would go and drive down the field, and the next thing you know, I mean, that Tuttle throws an interception right to the Illinois. I mean, they were going right down the field, and they were passing the ball really good. And then that Bailey kid for Illinois steps right into the. I don't know what Tuttle was looking for or was looking at, but he stepped right in it and caught an intercept. That was a key. That was a key at the end. I mean, not at the end, but I think it was the third quarter when they were driving. I mean, they had all the momentum going, and it just seemed like they'd get momentum going, and Illinois would sneak in there, and and some of the play calling, I think at the end in the fourth quarter, where they were kind of like Illinois was milking the clock, like hopefully not to lose. And it's like you got over 7 minutes to go in the game, guys. Don't let off on it because Michigan can go right down and score. I didn't like the play calling at the end, trying to milk the clock. But I mean, overall, they played good, and they're going to have another true road test next week against Oregon. So that'll be tough.
Well, I actually kind of disagree with that. I think their play calling at the end was good because they had a 2-score lead, right? If it was a 1-score lead, I definitely think you still got to but with 2-score lead, and you only gave up 7 points throughout the whole game at that point. I mean,
Right.
the defense stopped the run and put the ball in the hands of this Tuttle. And it's a third string quarterback. It's the third quarterback that they've had this year. It's not perfect. And I definitely agree that interception where it was a wheel route and he's like, oh, the safety went to the middle of the field, so I'm going to throw it to the outside. Well, then the linebacker came out there and picked it off. It was like,
Yeah.
bro, you didn't even look before you threw it. Like, you're not Patrick Mahomes. Like, get out of here with this. So I definitely agree. I just think Michigan's not that team.
Yeah.
I said it on Saturday that being ranked 24th was crazy. I just don't think they're a top 25 team this year, and that's okay. You came off a national championship where you had a lot of guys go to the NFL. You lost your head coach. You had all this scrutiny last year. There's a lot of things causing you guys not to be good this year. But Illinois, it just seems like things are aligning for Illinois. Like obviously beating Purdue and overtime where they went for 2, like don't get me wrong, they're playing good football, but it's just like things are kind of falling their way. And yesterday, I just felt like they could have beat them a lot more if they were that good. If you know what I mean, if they were,
Right.
we're thinking they should have beat them by a lot more because Michigan was. I mean, they played like shit. So, but I thought it was a good game. It felt like it was a Big Ten Saturday. What I mean by that is it was the run ball down the throws, hard hits. It was what I imagine. But I also love to see Illinois' crowd there. Illinois' crowd played a factor into it. It was good, but the helmets and the uniforms for Illinois were that did not stop like every time I'm like, damn, those helmets are sick. I mean, it looked like they were wearing
I love their helmet. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah. And then they also missed, Illinois right at the end of the half. They were going to go in to score, and they kick a field goal, and that ball that he kicked, woo, That was not good. I mean, that could have been a big momentum too, because that would have made them 16-7 at half. And it was only a one-score game at halftime. So it just seemed like I don't know. Illinois, like you said, it's just fitting into place. Sometimes that Allmeyer looks really good, and sometimes he don't look very good at all. I mean, it's just they just I don't know. They just do enough to win, or do enough. They do what they can do, and if they win, that's fine. If they don't, they just don't. And their defense is really good. I mean, that's what's going to keep them in a lot of games is their defense.
Well, it's a very disciplined defense, and what I mean by that, when a team like Michigan runs the ball as much as they do, all they're looking for is you to be out of place once, and they're going to take it to the house. And that's what Illinois just did not do. They did not come out of misplace very often. There was big runs, don't get me wrong, and there was good chunk plays for Michigan, but Illinois' defense played very disciplined. Illinois also had some fake plays in there with, that worked out for them to get in scores with the punt. And I believe there was a field goal that they faked, but like there was fake plays on their side. So, but I mean, if you talk about Luke Altmaier, like without Luke Altmaier yesterday, they lose. I mean, he threw a touchdown and he ran in for a touchdown. Like,
right.
I think his mobility helps him, but I think he just needs to trust it more. Just take off running. If it's not open, just stop. And it wasn't forcing plays. It was just more of like throwing it where nobody can get it. And I was like, okay, just go get it 3 yards. Like, I think your offensive coordinator would rather have you, 2nd and 7 than 2nd and 10.
Yeah.
Better than 1st and 10. Like, just go get a couple yards, slide, protect yourself, and just get a couple. But yeah, it was a like when we watch the SEC and we're watching these Tennessee throwing the ball, 30, 40 yards down the field and high flying and all this. And then at the same time, you're watching Illinois play where you're like, it's just Illinois and Michigan where it's just stop the run.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the difference of the two conferences. And Michigan, don't get me wrong, it won them a championship last year of how they did it. I just don't think this year they have the weapons to do what they're doing. And the quarterback situation is what's killing them now.
Right.
But that moves us to our night game, which was definitely the game of the night, but maybe not the game of the night because it was close, but unexpected. Number 5, Georgia beats number 1, Texas. And I will tell you right now, Georgia came out hungry with a 20-point lead, leading to Arch Manning coming in the game. What do you think about this game?
They got out to 29, and I'm thinking, if they let them score again, this could be over early. This could be a blowout early. But Georgia's defense was just swarmed. When they got up 20-0, they were just pinning their ears back and letting it rip and just going after Ewers. And then Ewers got hurt, and so they bring in Archman, and he didn't do much better. I was kind of shocked in the second half. They brought back Ewers. I thought they were going to stick with Arch. But yeah, it was, it got there, and then they started to make a little bit of a run, and then, they got to 30-15, and then it was, and then we had that controversial call, So one thing I want to say about that is I was shocked after that call that Texas didn't get a penalty for the debris on the field. I was shocked on that. They didn't call nothing for that. I mean, that's you've got to call something. That delayed the game. They had to clean up the mess. You don't call nothing on that? I was really shocked on it. But it just seemed like Georgia's defense in this game was just they were playing lights out. They were playing the Georgia defense like they played last year. And Carson Beck just did just enough to, and that ETN for their running back is good. I mean, I think he's the younger brother of the ETN from Jacksonville. Yeah. So it was just, once they got up, it just seemed like Texas could. And now it shows that really, did Texas really play anybody so far this year? I mean, they played Michigan. Well, we're looking at that one and seeing that wasn't very good. And Oklahoma. Well, Oklahoma just got their ass spanked this week. So maybe Texas has it as good as we thought they were going to be.
So I think Georgia came into this game being like hungry. They knew that they lose. They're looking, and they're on the outside looking in. And Texas, on the other hand, was more about being like, okay, well, we're Texas. And it punched him in the mouth. I mean, Quinn Ewers having the 2 fumbles. And just, it was bad. It was bad. Now, I do want to talk about this call because the pass interference, it was a bad call. It was a bad call. The offense, it could have been offensive pass interference more than it was defensive pass interference because he fully extended his arms. The offensive guy wasn't even looking at the ball. The defensive guy was looking at the ball. Now, they have the debris thrown on the field where the coach even has to go all the way to the end zone to tell them to stop throwing it, which is
crazy. Yeah.
Back and say, well, nope, it wasn't a penalty. I've never seen where they've reversed a call like that. You got to play it. It's a bad call, but you got to play it.
Yeah. Yep.
What you did last night is you said to fans, hey, you don't like the call? Throw debris on the field.
Yep.
Delay the game because that was a huge situation. And even Kirk and them were talking about it and was like, well, that delay caused the refs to go talk to each other. And they were like,
yep.
They were like, well, one of the guys, he must have spoke up and defended and said, no, this wasn't. No. You stick with each other. You say, hey, there's a bad. Well, it is what it is. We move forward. You cannot reverse that call. If I'm Kirby, I would have went, and he did go crazy, but I would have I would have delayed the game for 15 more minutes. Throw a flag. That was bullshit. That was
bullshit. Well, the call was bullshit, and that's no way that's pass interference. Like we both agree, that's no way that's pass interference. That rub or whatever he did had nothing to do with how the pass was thrown. It wasn't even close. So I mean, they should never have thrown the flag in the first place. Yeah, I've never seen anything like that. Where I remember a football game back, I think in the 80s or 90s. Sam Weish, they were throwing snowballs. I think it was the Cincinnati fans were throwing snowballs because they didn't like a call, or they were throwing at the players. They didn't like a call. He got on the mic and says, if one of you fans, if you see somebody throwing it, you kick their asses out of the stadium. And the crowd just goes nuts. If anybody has a chance, YouTube that. It is hilarious.
Yeah, I just think it was, you can't do that. You can't reverse.
No, I definitely can't.
And then Texas goes down and scores a touchdown, and it brought him back. But then Texas defense gives up another touchdown. The biggest thing about this game is Georgia only scored 7 in the second half, okay? And Texas scored 15. If you don't go down so big in the beginning, this is but you go into half at 23. I don't know if Quinn Ewers was actually hurt. I think he was bent because they had to bring in some different type of life in there.
Yeah.
And everything at halftime, everyone was like, well, you got to keep with Arch because he's got the mobility.
Right.
He can go get out and run. But even Arch looked like he was not ready to be out there because he is trying to stretch his shoulders and stuff. And it's like, well, did he know that he was going to go in when it went in? I mean, it was a bad situation for Texas. I said it on Saturday's podcast that I said, has Texas played anyone? Is Texas who we think they are? Because they haven't done it yet. Well, you know what? Welcome to the SEC, boys, because I think they just got a rude awakening of who this is. But I will tell you, too, they're lucky they had Bond back, because if Bond wasn't in there, that's one of your touchdowns right there and 2 points. So let's talk about the rest of the NCAA. There were some other good games that happened as well, real quick. On Saturday, you also saw Miami take that 52-45 win over Louisville. What a shootout. And then you had LSU beat up on Arkansas 34-10. Iowa State pulls it out at the end, 38-35. Clemson wins 48-31 against Virginia. Notre Dame beats up on Georgia Tech 31-13. Texas A&M beats Mississippi State 34-24 with 13 unanswered in the second half. Indiana might be for real. We'll still see. 56-7 win over Nebraska. Kansas State wins 45-18. Missouri wins 21-17 over Auburn. SMU wins 40-10 over Stanford. And Army and Navy get big wins with a 45-28 Army win over East Carolina. And Navy won 51-17 against Charlotte. How'd you do on your bets this weekend?
I went 2-1. The Army came in. I had to give 16.5. They won by 17. Shoo. Illinois, they won outright, like I predicted on the podcast. And the Kentucky-Florida, I probably should have stayed away from this game, but I didn't, and I took the Kentucky into 2, and they got blown out. Ooh, yikes. So I went 2-1.
Give me a couple Ric Flairs there.
Woo!
So I went 3-0, and you know what?
Yeah.
I'm not even going to do a Ric Flair there. I'm going to do a Ric Flair to start us off. Woo! 3-0, huge wins. For me, I had the I had West Virginia and Kansas State. Kansas State put it on them in the second half. They were giving 2.5. They won by a lot. Exactly what I said. West Virginia's second half is no team. They're out there just putting scrubs, it feels like, and Kansas State took advantage of that. Indiana versus Nebraska, I had the over on 49.5. Indiana scored at more than 49 alone by themselves, so that was a nice little win. And then Miami giving 4.5. They win by, I believe, like 7 or whatever for this game. It was one where it kind of made me a little nervous, but 3-0 for this. We went 5-1 total. A great Saturday day for betting for us, but that takes us into Sunday. So we got some must-watch games, and we'll go through these. So our first must-watch is Texans versus Packers. Love versus Stroud. Great young quarterbacks and possibly the future for the quarterback position. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I like this game. This should be an interesting game. You got Jordan Love versus C.J. Stroud. Um, this is going to be a good game. I think the defense. This is going to be kind of a high flying scoring. Even without Nico Collins, I think to Texas will be fine. He's still out for the hamstring deal. So, I think they're going to lean on. I think the Packers are going to lean on the running back, Josh Jacobs. They're going to have to get that running attack going so that it spreads out, because Texans have got a damn good D line with Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter, the ex-Viking. So, I mean, they're going to have to lean on that and see what happens. And also, too, their DBs for both teams, you've got some good wide receivers in Jaden Reed and Christian Watson. And then on the other side, you've got it's Tank Dell, so Diggs. So, I mean, this should be, I think, an interesting game up and down. So I think this could be a track meet.
I definitely agree. I think that the way that these two games are set up, it's, they're both playing very good football. I mean, the Texans have only lost to the Vikings. Green Bay has lost to the Vikings, and I don't remember the other loss, but they have 2 losses. The Vikings and someone else. But, I mean, it's
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, yes. And the Vikings, to start the season off.
Start the season off.
Yeah, because and the Vikings are 5-0. So, I mean, they're showing they're a great team right now. So, these teams have lost to good teams. It's not bad situations for them to lose. But I think you're Xavier McKinney. I mean, he's had an interception in every game this year so far. CJ Stroud's thrown to 3 touchdowns to 3 different people last week. It's going to be who can outpower who. Can the defense perform for Green Bay, or is it going to be a situation where the offensive core of the Texans take over? I saw this, that Love is behind Baker in passing touchdowns, and he hasn't even played all the games. I mean, remember, Love was out because of injury. So it's kind of cool that Stephon Diggs is coming back to Green Bay. So he played for the Vikings for a long time. So he's used to this situation. It isn't a frozen tundra kind of game yet, but it is a game where, it is a little bit cooler today. So Stephon Diggs, I could see him having a big game today, but it'll be a fun, entertaining game. I hope it lives up to its hype with the high flying. I hope it's not a defensive situation as well, because touchdowns are awesome, and touchdowns makes football king. So it'll be a fun little game to watch.
I also, too, Anthony, I think it could come down to the kicking game, too. You got Fairbairn for Houston against they had to go out and get another kicker. The Packers did that. Narvison, they released him, and now they've got Brandon McManus, he's been around, ex-Denver kicker. So, if I had bet money on, come down to the kick game, that Fairbairn could kick him from 60. So that should be interesting to see if the game comes down to the end, whose kicking game is going to be the better.
Yep. No, definitely agree. Well, that takes us to our second must-watch game, Lions versus Vikings. And this is an NFL or NFC North showdown with the undefeated Vikings versus the one-loss Lions. Both teams are coming in playing good ball. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, this is going to be battle for first place in the NFC North. You got the Lions offense. They haven't really faced anybody, of a defense like Minnesota's. I mean, that's going to be, it's going to be, and can the Vikings, and also on the offense, can the Vikings get it back going with Darnold and Jefferson? So, that's going to be another deal. The key injury is going to be Aiden Hudson. That's going to help the Vikings, I think, a little bit, not having that D in there to put pressure on Darnold. So that should be good. the teams that are five. This was an interesting stat I looked up. Teams that are 5-0 and coming off buys and playing at home are 9-0. Average score, average margin of victory, almost 20 points. So if you're a Vikings fan, it's something to think about. That your team could be pretty good. So.
Well, and I will say, as a Vikings fan, I'm going to have the red zone on one screen, and I'm going to have this game on a second screen. I hope it's played so that I can see it, because I definitely think this is a game that is going to come down to number one defense versus number one offense. The Lions have looked like they're just playing with their food after watching the Cowboys try to defend them. Where the Vikings defense, they throw so many bluffs into their defense. Looks like they're going cover 0, they come out cover 2, cover 1, and then it comes into cover 3. And like, there's so many bluffs into what it actually comes out once the ball is hiked. I think that's going to be a big thing with Jared Goff today. He's going to have to read that defense. He's going to have to play well. But I mean, the passing game that they got going on right now with Jameson Williams and Amara St. Brown, Laporta, and then you got the 2 running back punch.
Yeah. I think that's going to be key too, is if they could stop those 2.
Which the Vikings defense has been good about stopping the run, but also too, when you look at the Vikings record, I mean, they beat a hurt San Francisco team. They beat a bad Giants team. They beat, the Jets that came into a situation where it's obvious that the Jets are not playing what they should have been playing. There is situations where I think the Vikings defense is going to be tested today. I will still say this right now. If the Vikings so happen to lose this game, which I don't think they're going to, if the Vikings lose this game, I don't know if it's a situation where the defense is not what it's hyped up to be. It's more of this offense is playing good ball now. But can the Lions keep this up? I mean, what are we, week 6 now, I think, for the NFL? Like,
yeah, 7.
Week 7. Like, you still got, 11 more weeks of this? So can you keep it up? We'll see about that. But Justin Jefferson historically has been great against the Lions with 62 catches and over 1,000 yards in 8 games. But the Lions have revamped the secondary. They went out to the draft and got some players. Their secondary's been playing a lot better this year. So we'll see what that matchup. I can also see Jordan Addison having a big game with the focus of Justin Jefferson being shut down. So that will be a good game to watch, definitely for the NFC North. That takes us to a later game, the Chiefs versus the 49ers, a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, this is the rematch. You got the undefeated 5-0 Chiefs. They've just kind of stuck around. They don't look really impressive, For a 5-0 team, they just keep winning, They just keep winning, So, and you got Andy Reid. He's 18-4 coming off a bye, so he's always tough, with this. Chiefs are going to be without, Mike Dan something. Yeah, I can't pronounce his name. Dana. They're going to be without him. So can the Chiefs get it going? On defense, they've been playing good defense this year. So I think this is going to be a really good game. Can they slow down Purdy and Debo and all of them? And then on the opposite side, the Chiefs or the 49ers defense, man, they're going to have to start stepping up a little bit better. That defense has been playing good, but you're going to go against Mahomes and Kelsey. I think your Juju Smith-Schuster, he's going to have a hell of a game. You might have to throw, and Kareem Hunt. I guess Clyde Allaire is possibly playing, but he may be on like a pitch clock, as far as pitch count, as far as how many carries he's going to get. I think this is going to be a really good game.
I definitely agree. I think the thing about the 49ers is the defense is still the 49ers defense. Obviously, the offense has been struggling and with injuries and everything like that, but you still got Fred Warner in the middle. You still got and I think this is where you got to shut down Kareem Hunt if you're the 49ers defense, because he came back a couple weeks ago because they had a bye last week and had a great game. Is this a situation where you can shut him down? Can you stop him? But a key matchup, I believe, is the Chris Jones versus the 49ers' Dominic Puni. Puni was struggled blocking Jones in the Super Bowl last year. Is that a situation where Jones because Chris Jones is always going to get to the quarterback. He's always going to get to the quarterback, but can you slow him down? Can you make it so that he doesn't get there all the time? Another stat that I saw is Kyle Shanahan has not beaten the Chiefs since becoming the coach for 49ers. So Can the 49ers get that win today? Can they pull one off? It is in the 49ers. So, but yeah, it's the 10th Super Bowl rematch in the following year. And the Super Bowl winner has gone to win or they're 6-3. So it looks like it's the Chiefs' favor going here. But one person to watch or keep an eye on is George Kittle. I think he's going to have a big game against the Chiefs because the Chiefs have struggled to cover the tight ends. And George Kittle has been really great in that red zone. So we'll have to see how this game, but I definitely think it'll be a good game between what we thought could be the Super Bowl of this year, who we put our money into of thinking who could make a run this year. But the Chiefs, the way they finish games, it'll always keep them in a game. It always keeps an option for them. And you always have that quarterback of Patrick Mahomes. So it'll be a great game.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Well, let's talk about the rest of the NFL. What other games are happening? There is some other good games happening today. So you got Seahawks versus Falcons. Seahawks have dropped 3 in a row, and the Falcons are learning how to win games at the end. So it'll be a great game there. Titans versus Bills. I believe Mason Rudolph is playing for the Titans. So you got a new quarterback coming in. Will Levis is not playing. Bills need to kind of bounce back and start getting going on their groove again. Bengals versus Browns. Who cares? And not who dat? Who cares? Texans versus Packers. We talked about that one. Dolphins and Colts. AR is playing for the Colts, and I understand he's a young quarterback. You got to get him reps. He's got to get games in there. But Joe Flacco's kind of helped them resurge that offense. So we'll see about that one. Eagles versus Giants. Saquon Barkley's back in New York after leaving. 2-4 Giants versus a 3-2 Eagles. Malik Neighbors will be playing for the Giants, so it should be a good game there. You got Raiders versus Rams, 2-4 Raiders and 1-4 Rams. Yeah, I'm okay. And then you got Panthers versus Commanders. Can the Panthers slow down this attack of the Commanders? I just don't see it happening. Tonight, you got the Jets versus Steelers. Devontae Adams makes his opener with the Jets against Russell Wilson. That makes his starter for the Steelers. Don't know if I really love that decision, but we'll see how that ends up. And then on Monday night, you have 2 games. Very important. Ravens versus Buccaneers. That's going to be on ESPN or ABC at 7:15. But the 8 o'clock game is on ESPN Plus. Chargers versus Cardinals. I don't really love this decision. I understand what ESPN's doing by trying to make it so that you have to get ESPN Plus or want to watch the game with ESPN Plus, but I just put it on a damn channel. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
So, and they've done that a lot this year. They've done a lot of the 2 Monday night games, and then obviously you got the London games this year and stuff like that. So it's taken away from your red zone atmosphere on Sunday. But is there any other game that kind of keeps an eye out for you?
Yeah, I mean, the games that I think we got a good slate of games. There's probably the one that's is the Giants and Eagles. What kind of when are you going to get with Daniel Jones, and when are you going to get with the 2 quarterbacks and Hurts? They've both been kind of struggling, and then you got Saquon coming home. So I think that should be a under the radar kind of game that nobody's thinking about watching, but could be a good game.
Definitely agree. Well, let's get on our bets. What is your first bet today?
We're going to go with the Bengals and the Browns. Both teams going in the opposite directions. Bengals have won the last 2. Browns, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're still going with Deshaun. And then now this week they traded away one of their best wide receivers, Amari Cooper. So the Bengals opened up at 4.5. Now that's at 5.5. So that number has really changed. The Bengals are 3-3 against the spread, and the Browns are 2-4 against the spread. I don't think the Browns have got it. I think they're tanking for I have no idea what They still got that quarterback. They're still going to have to pay him $90 million. So I like the Bengals and the 4.5. Well, now 5.5.
I agree. I think this is a game where I don't know what the Browns have to offer to bring against the Bengals. I think the Bengals, this is a bounce back game. This is kind of where a feel good game. You know what I mean? One of those games where you kind of beat up on a team and you're like, okay, we're maybe not that bad. Yeah, we'll see. But I definitely agree. Given 5.5, I think they'll win by a good touchdown or so. For me, I'm going with the Colts and the Dolphins. Colts are only favored 3 in this game. AR's coming back. I think this is a game where AR is going to definitely take over. I just don't think his wide receivers are going to see it. I'm benching Josh Downs for this game because with Joe Flacco, he definitely sits in the pocket and throws the ball, but AR's got more of that running type. So I like this one. I like Colts, and it's at Colts. So I like Colts winning by more than 3. So giving the 3 with the Colts.
Nice.
What do you got for your second bet?
Second bet, Chiefs and 49ers. Chiefs are going into, coming out of the bye. Like I said before, Andy Reid is 18-4 coming off the bye. So, he's got an impeccable record. This could get down to the kicking as well. You've got, they've went through 3 kickers, the 49ers, and they had to pick up Andrews Carlson for this week because both Moody and the Wright is out. So this could get down to kicking, San Francisco leads the league in red zone drives. San Francisco has 3 wins against the spread. KC is 3-2 and 0 against the spread. I like the start that Andy Reid. I like this 18-4 for Andy Reid. So I think coming off a bye. So give me the Chiefs and the money line. I think it went outright.
I like this one too. We kind of talked before we did the podcast that this was a game that I kind of thought as well. I think the Chiefs just come out and after a bye like this, 49ers are just trying to reel for what this year is. I think there's too much still conversation about Christian McCaffrey and what situation this is happening there. So I like the Chiefs on this one. And the stat I gave was 6-3 with the whole thing of after the Super Bowl they play each other the year after.
Right.
For my second bet, I'm going with the Packers versus Texans. Over 48.5. I do think it's going to be a high-flying game. I know that the secondary for the Green Bay has played well. I just think that this is a matchup that Xavier McKinney can only cover so much, right? He can only cover so much of the field. I think they're going to get a little bit of the Texans are going to get their place, whether it's Joe Mixon running the ball or it's they're going to score points. And then I think Green Bay, Jordan Love is playing great ball after the injury, and they're throwing touchdown passes and they're running the ball well. I definitely think this is over the 48.5 with this. I could see it being a 30-30 kind of game, 30-something. So we'll definitely see. But I like 48.5 with the Packers and Texans over.
Nice.
What do you got for your third bet?
Ravens Bucks. This is the first time these two teams have met since 2022. And it's only the second time since 2018. You've got Lamar Jackson and the running back King Henry. Can the Bucks slow them down? It seems like nobody has so far this year. So that's going to be key. And you got Mayfield. I couldn't believe that the stats as far as throwing yards from Jackson and Baker is pretty close. So that's just crazy. This line opened up at 4.5. Now it's down to 3.5. So the Bucks are 9-3 against the spread in the last 12 weeks. And as an underdog, the Ravens are 4-0 this year in the last 4. I just like the Ravens are just playing too good right now. And I think they keep that offense going. And the defense, so give me the Ravens and I'll give you the 3.5.
The Ravens giving 3.5. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they're playing good ball right now, and the defense is playing pretty well as well. So I just think with Baker Mayfield, it feels like sometimes he's hit or miss. And right now, I don't know. And you say stopping the run, but with that Ravens D or with the Buccaneers D line, if there was anyone that was going to really stop it, it could be that D line of the Buccaneers that game. But for me, I'm doing the Eagles versus Giants. I don't like the point spread at all on this one. So I'm going to hit the over on this one, 42.5. The Eagles defense has been exploited a lot this year, a lot. And with Neighbors coming back, Slayton has had big games for them as the year's gone on as well, while Neighbors has been out. I think they'll throw the ball. Singletary at running back, I think he'll play pretty well for the Giants. Eagles now have all their weapons back outside of Dallas Goedert. So you got the Eagles coming back. They look like they could throw the ball pretty well. I think Jalen Hurts has a game today as well. I think both teams are just going to score. I was really surprised that it was started at 42.5. So I'm taking the over on that with 42.5. But that is Sunday, NFL, we recapped the college football and we talked about NFL must watch. It'll be a great day for football. We also talked about our betting. We went 5-1 yesterday. Hopefully, we do the same results. Even maybe even get 6-0 today. Now, if you do bet or do take any of our advice, just remember we're two goons talking football. So don't bet. Please bet responsibly when you do bet. And then also, if you do like what we're doing, comment, subscribe, share. If you don't, that's okay too. But we want to thank all of our fans, and I hope you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday.